The afternoon sun fell gently over the suburbs of what used to be San Antonio, now called Earth Sector 5N, District Terra Prime. Most of the houses looked normal enough: solar roofs, backyard drone pads. Some even had vintage American flags swaying proudly, as if the world hadn't changed after the contact wars. Mason Alvarez, age 12, sat on his porch in worn-out cargo shorts, chewing bubblegum and holding a screwdriver in his teeth as he rewired the core of a decommissioned scout drone. Around him lay parts, wires, and an old-school Walkman blaring music that no one under 40 recognized. From inside the house, a robotic voice called out, "Mason, your heart rate has spiked above parameters. Are you emotionally compromised?" He didn't look up. "No, Sarge. Just wired the capacitor backwards again. Stop acting like my therapist." A pause, then a dry retort from the AI. "I've been instructed by your father to ensure you live through your own genius." He snorted. "I'm 12. I have at least 3 more reckless years before responsibility kicks in." But before Sarge could offer a reply, the wind changed. A high-pitched frequency buzzed, barely audible but sharp enough to make birds scatter from nearby rooftops. The gum in Mason's mouth paused mid-chew. He looked up slowly. A ripple shimmered in the backyard, a disturbance in the very air, like heat waves over asphalt. Then, without ceremony or sound, a tear in space appeared midair. Through it stepped 5 figures, sleek, armored, and distinctly not human. The first wore a decorated sash over chitin-plated armor, its eyes glowing a dull green. The creature's limbs folded in unnatural ways as it moved forward and raised a scanner. Its voice echoed with static and superiority. Target acquired. Specimen. Human juvenile, male, Class B genetics, neural development, above average. Unsecured. Proceeding with retrieval. The rest fanned out, weapons drawn, scanning for resistance. Mason blinked once, then calmly stood up, stretched his arms, and said, "Hi." The lead alien, Captain Zal Thursday of the 11th Imperial Precision Squad, stared at him. "You are property of the Galactic Empire now, Earthling." "Cool," Mason replied. "But you guys want juice boxes first? We've got mango and blue raspberry." The alien behind Zal Thursday, a stockier one with drooping mandibles and what looked like a cybernetic fanny pack, tilted its head. "Is he offering refreshments?" "No," Zal Thursday snapped. "He's disarming us with irony. Classic human tactic. Don't fall for it." Mason raised an eyebrow. "Disarming you? Dude, you came through a glowing hole in my backyard and started monologuing like a Saturday morning villain. You did that all by yourself." Without waiting for a cue, 2 of the armored aliens lunged toward him. Mason stepped back, pressed a button on his wristband, and the porch lighting suddenly blinked red. Sarge's voice echoed through mounted speakers. "Initiating home defense mode. Non-lethal deterrence engaged. Have a nice visit." There was a whirring sound, then 3 drone bots shot from beneath the porch with taser darts and foam cannons. One alien slipped on the foam and slammed into a birdbath. Another was swarmed by micro-drones that stole its belt. The rookie alien shrieked, stumbling away in shame, pants halfway down his insectoid hips. Zal Thursday snarled, "Capture him now." The squad finally managed to surround Mason, despite his AI's mischief. He stood still, calm, even as a stun cuff snapped around his wrist. "Thanks for the show," Mason said, grinning. "Dad's gonna love this footage." Zal Thursday didn't reply. He turned, issuing commands in his native tongue, something that sounded like a blender choking on gravel. A portal opened again. This time, they took Mason with them. The inside of the alien ship smelled like burnt circuitry and, oddly enough, licorice. Mason sat in a containment pod that looked like a transparent egg with neon veins. Across from him, Captain Zal Thursday observed with a gaze that tried very hard to be intimidating. Mason smiled at him like he'd just won a school science fair. "You are remarkably calm," Zal Thursday said. "Do you understand the gravity of your situation?" "Sure," Mason replied. "You guys kidnapped a minor. That's usually frowned upon in most parts of the galaxy. You are a genetic anomaly. Your capture was authorized by the Emperor himself. You should feel honored." "Oh, I do," Mason said, leaning back. I'm honored you picked me out of 7 billion people. That's got a sting when you realize what a dumb move it was. One of the other aliens, the grumbling tech officer named Krek, barked a laugh. He's got nerve, I'll give him that. Silence. Zal Thursday snapped. He turned back to Mason, trying another tactic. We can offer you advanced education, galactic tours, neural enhancements. I already got straight A's. And a burrito maker. Beat that. Zal Thursday stepped closer, his voice turning to a hiss. You are not special, human child. You are a pawn. Replaceable. Forgettable. Mason met his eyes. Funny. That's exactly what you're going to be once my dad sees this. Zal Thursday recoiled slightly, something unreadable flashing in his expression. Your father is irrelevant. Really? Mason said, tapping the edge of his containment pod. Then you should probably ignore the fact that I've had a tracker on me this entire time. Zal Thursday narrowed his eyes. You lie. Sarge, Mason said out loud. Transmit location ping. Priority code, dad mode. There was a long, unsettling pause. Then Zal Thursday's command console lit up like a fireworks display. Warning tones blared in multiple dialects. The screen showed an inbound signal from deep within Earth's lunar quadrant. It was encrypted, weaponized, and very, very angry. A synthesized voice rang through the ship. This is General Cole Alvarez of the Terran Unified Command. You have 60 seconds to return my son, or I'm coming to get him. Krek stepped back. Cole Alvarez? The hell, General? No, that's just propaganda. He retired. Zal Thursday's jaw twitched. The voice print is authentic. He's one man. No, he's the man who leveled the Scorpion War nest in 38 minutes with 6 troops and a PowerPoint presentation. Mason smiled inside his pod. Yeah, that's my dad. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the rookie alien, Chilnik, quietly whispered, Should we let the human go? Shut up, Krek muttered. Do you want to not die? Chilnik replied. Zal Thursday turned back toward Mason, trying to regain control. Your father cannot reach us here. We are deep within fold space. Maybe, Mason said, blowing a bubble with his gum. Or maybe this was the plan the whole time. What plan? I get caught. You bring me here. You reveal your hidden base. Then Earth gets to say, oh wow, we just discovered an illegal black site housing a kidnapped kid. Guess we're allowed to invade now. Krek dropped his scanner. Oh no. Mason's grin turned razor sharp. I wasn't bait. I was the warrant. An alarm screamed through the deck. The walls rattled. Shields dropped by 10%. Through the observation window, a Terran fleet decloaked, silent, synchronized, already moving into position. Zal Thursday stood frozen. Mason looked around, popping his gum. Hey, do you guys validate parking? No. Just war crimes? Cool. Outside the pod, the darkness of fold space was ripped apart by the light of Terran steel. The last thing Zal Thursday saw before the blackout was a 12-year-old kid holding up a juice box in salute. And then the lights went out. The Terran Unified Command didn't make noise when it moved. It didn't broadcast intent. It didn't posture like the old Earth militaries had once done with flag waving and missile parades. No, it moved like a scalpel, precise, silent, and meant to cut only once. Inside the blacked-out war room of the Lunar Command Citadel, everything was quiet save for the hum of screens and the slow drip of coffee into a steel mug. General Cole Alvarez stood at the head of the long obsidian table, one hand resting lightly on a datapad, the other wrapped around the mug like it was the last warm thing in the galaxy. He had the posture of someone unbothered, the kind of man who could negotiate a ceasefire while shaving. His military uniform was pressed to the point of intimidation, a subtle warning in sharp lines and cold metals. His eyes, however, were another story. They looked tired, not from age, but from calculation. Those eyes didn't look at you. They measured you. Time since abduction, he asked, voice low and unhurried. The room's holo display shifted. 17 minutes, sir, answered Lieutenant Weiss, barely old enough to rent a star cruiser. His nervous fingers danced over the console like they weren't sure if this was real. Cole didn't look at him. "They're early." Weiss blinked. "Sir." "They weren't supposed to move until next quarter cycle," Cole said, as if reviewing an unexpected weather pattern. "Either they got impatient or they got scared. That changes the tempo." He sipped his coffee, nodded once, and walked to the command hub. The walls rippled with holographic constellations. At the center, one blinked red, Fold Space Anomaly, Class 6, with a faint Terran biosignature. "Mason's tag is still live," he said. Weiss risked a glance. "Sir, I mean this respectfully, but it's just one boy. Shouldn't we negotiate first?" Cole turned, slowly, and smiled. Not a friendly smile. A smile that whispered, "You're adorable, but stop talking." "I did negotiate," Cole said, voice still even. "I let them exist." That was the opening offer. The room chilled by 5 degrees. Vice Admiral Halvorsen, a bulky, sharp-tongued warhound of a woman who had once shot down an alien dropship with a harpoon gun, stepped in. She gave Cole a brief nod. "Fleet's in position. Cloaked. No contact yet, but we've picked up transmissions. Light chatter, probably pre-bragging." She sniffed. "Idiots think they're gonna parade him around." "They might," Cole said, "but not for long. Do you want live fire or something subtle?" He stared at the red blip. "Send the letter." Halvorsen grinned. "With the full language?" "With annexes. Annex 73B, especially 73B. She whistled. "Cole, move, boss." Cole took another drink. "They touched my son. I'm already being merciful." The holo display flickered. Alien glyphs replaced the stars, a communication signal forcing its way through every secure channel on the moon. It was an open frequency, bold or desperate. Then the feed stabilized, and the image of Captain Zal Thursday appeared, his mandibles twitching in restrained arrogance. "This is Zal Thursday of the 11th Precision Legion," he announced. "We have acquired one of your kind, a child, unharmed for now. We expect negotiations to begin immediately. Coordinates have been sent for diplomatic parley." Cole didn't blink. Weiss swallowed hard. "Sir, they're offering diplomacy." "They're offering bait," Cole said. "But Mason's in danger." "No," Cole replied. "They are." Zal Thursday kept speaking, unaware his audience wasn't impressed. "We suggest you cooperate. Your species lacks the sophistication to engage in war at this level." "We." Cole pressed a button. The feed cut. "That was rude," Halvorsen said, smirking. "He was wasting time," Cole replied. "Prep the envoy ship. Give them what they asked for." "An actual envoy." "Better," he said. "Send Miller." Halvorsen laughed. "You're sending that guy?" Cole's smile returned, this time edged with genuine amusement. "He's got the right temperament." Back in the command hub, Weiss was furiously trying to decrypt the incoming signal packet. "They're using fold space compression, but I can pull their exact coordinates." "Don't," Cole said. "They'll move again. They always do. But once they open the second channel, we'll have them. Let them think they're in control." Weiss hesitated. "But what about Mason?" Cole stepped closer, and for the first time, the mask cracked just a little. "My son knew what he was doing. He had 2 emergency codes and a neural ping transmitter. He didn't use the codes." "You think he's waiting?" "I think," Cole said, "he's already turned their ship into a science project." Halvorsen laughed again, just like his old man. Cole didn't answer. The alien war chamber smelled like cold metal and nervous sweat. Captain Zal Thursday stalked across the deck, claws clacking. The containment pod, holding Mason, sat to the side now, locked down, but glowing faintly with internal power. The boy hadn't spoken in 10 minutes. That worried Zal Thursday more than he cared to admit. He'd seen footage of human adults under pressure, shouting, crying, some even trying to fight hopelessly. This child just watched, as if he were testing something. Krek shuffled in with the datapad, rubbing his eyes with one cybernetic hand. "Sir, we intercepted their reply." "Go on." "It's not a reply. It's a document. 56 pages. Mostly legalese. But it's signed." Zal Thursday's eyes narrowed. "By who?" "Cole Alvarez." The name made several of the crew turn their heads. Krek adjusted his translator. He used Annex 73B. Zal Thursday didn't speak for a long moment. Then, slowly, he sat down. "That's not a negotiation," he said finally. "That's a declaration of pre-authorized retribution." Krek stared at him. "Then why did they send a diplomat?" Zal Thursday looked toward the stars. "They didn't. They sent a warning with legs." Mason finally stirred in his pod. He pressed his forehead to the glass and smiled. "You figured it out," he said. "Took you long enough. You tricked us." "No," Mason said. "You played yourself." The floor vibrated. An alert blared. "Incoming vessel," barked one of the navigators. "Small. Unarmed. Human-class diplomatic courier. Docking now." Zal Thursday stood quickly. "Prepare containment. Ready psionic suppressors." But it was too late. The doors slid open. A lone figure stepped into the war chamber. He wore a cheap suit and sunglasses. No weapons. No entourage. He held a paper coffee cup, which he sipped with the apathy of someone who had never once respected danger. "Hello," he said, voice casual. "I'm Envoy Miller, representing the Terran Unified Command." "Where are your guards?" Zal Thursday demanded. "Oh, I don't need any." Mason, still in the pod, gave him a salute. "Hi, Uncle Jeff." "Hey, Mason. You behave. Always." Zal Thursday stepped forward. "You will surrender military control and negotiate your species' withdrawal from galactic expansion." Miller smiled. "Sure. Just as soon as you hand over the boy, give us your encryption keys, and admit you violated for articles of the Galactic Civil Accord." "You have no leverage." Miller tilted his head. "See, that's the part where you're very wrong." He finished his coffee, then casually tossed the cup aside. As it hit the floor, it beeped and detonated. Not in an explosion, but a burst of compressed sound that knocked every alien flat. Mason's pod opened with a soft hiss. He stepped out unharmed. The ship's systems went dark, then rebooted in English. Krek groaned, crawling toward the console. "He hacked us with a coffee cup?" Mason gave a small wave. "Technically, it was the nanites in the cup. Uncle Jeff's got good taste." Zal Thursday struggled to his knees, wheezing. This was a trap. Miller crouched beside him, smile fading. "You kidnapped a child," he said, tone devoid of humor. "You bragged about it. Then you gave us every legal and moral right to violate your space, inspect your ship, and broadcast your coordinates to 12 other governments you're secretly at war with." Zal Thursday reached for a hidden blade. Miller stepped on his hand. "We're not monsters," Miller said. "We don't conquer, but we do respond." The chamber doors opened behind him. Cole Alvarez walked in. No armor, no weapons, just his stare. Everyone stopped moving, even Miller. Mason walked up to his father. Cole didn't speak. He placed one hand on Mason's shoulder, then turned to Zal Thursday. "Do you understand what's happening now?" he asked quietly. Zal Thursday didn't answer. "You attacked a child," Cole said, "and we responded with paperwork, patience, and just enough mercy to teach a lesson." Mason looked up at him. "Can I punch him now?" "No," Cole replied. "He's going to stand trial." "Oh," Mason said. "That's more boring." Cole gave him a small smile. "Justice usually is." Miller cracked his neck. "I'll handle the press." "You always do," Cole said. They turned and walked toward the exit. Mason looked back once, waving. Zal Thursday was still on the floor, stunned, not from tech, but from the reality that he hadn't just lost a skirmish. He'd triggered a masterclass. And the humans? They hadn't even raised their voices. Fold space fractures don't scream when they open, but if you're paying attention, you can hear the galaxy wince. That's what happened above the planetary moon of Virex, for a central stronghold of the Galactic Empire. One moment, the stars hummed in their usual cold indifference. The next, 50 Terran stealth cruisers shimmered into view, arranged in perfect silence, like knives laid politely on a dinner table. Inside the Imperial Command Tower, alarms didn't even have a chance to go off before the entire defense grid went blind. Not destroyed, just muted. Systems blinked out like someone had pulled the plug from the universe. Fleet Commander Thrask, a seasoned Thalarai strategist with 15 wars and a spine made of interlocking carbon blades, stood paralyzed in front of the control screen. He wasn't panicking, yet, but he was trying to understand how every orbital defense system had gone offline without a single blast. "This has to be a bluff," he muttered. "No species has technology capable of." "They do," said an analyst behind him, voice hoarse with disbelief. "It's them." Thrask turned. "Them?" The analyst swallowed. "Humans." Thrask's claws twitched. "The ones who sent a coffee diplomat." "Yes, sir." "And took over the 7th Raider ship using a child." "That's the one." A silence, thick and disbelieving, settled like fog. In the corner, a junior officer whispered, "We picked the wrong fight." No one corrected him. High above, one of the Terran cruisers opened a transmission on every available frequency. No encryption, just raw, unfiltered signal. A single voice spoke. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was disappointed. "This is General Cole Alvarez of the Terran Unified Command. We are here to retrieve what is ours. Stand down." There was no ultimatum, no threats, no fireworks. And that made it worse. Back on the command ship of the 11th Imperial Precision Legion, Captain Zal Thursday was locked in his own kind of cage. Not a physical one, though after his failure, that would come, but a psychological one. He'd been stripped of command, dignity, and belief, all within a single Terran day. The boy had done it. The polite diplomat had mocked them. And now the father stood at the edge of the galaxy, waiting. He stared at the wall of his private cell, rerunning the last transmission over and over in his head. "We are here to retrieve what is ours." There was a precision to the phrasing that unnerved him. Not "we demand." Not "we'll retaliate." Just a cold, professional certainty. He was still processing this when the lights dimmed and a new voice filled the intercom. Dry, amused, and unmistakably human. "Good morning, Captain. Hope you slept well. I figured you'd enjoy a little tour." The walls flickered to life. Not physical windows, but holographic views into the unfolding terror outside. It wasn't an invasion. It was an audit. Terran drones slipped between orbital satellites, mapping every structure within seconds. Ships didn't fire missiles. They fired questions. Probes that sliced through shielding to log power levels, personnel rosters, and unregistered assets. One by one, the Empire's black sites lit up on Terran HUDs like cockroaches in a flashlight beam. "You see," the voice continued, "we don't do invasions anymore. Too messy. We just make ourselves at home." Zal Thursday pressed against a glass, watching helplessly as entire fleets were rendered obsolete by invisible pulses that reduced weapon systems to antiques. A new screen appeared, an alien council chamber. 12 members of the Galactic High Tribunal, each one writhing with panic. They weren't discussing retaliation. They were debating terms. "Annex 73B, said one. "We didn't think they'd actually use it." "They had the legal right," said another. "A child was taken." "They let us take him," said a third, a slow horror creeping across his voice. It was a setup. The whole thing. Back in the Empire's capital, the citizens didn't even realize they were under silent occupation. All they knew was their entertainment channels had been replaced by a new program, a historical documentary titled A Brief Overview of Human Warfare. Narrated by a calm, polite voice, the episodes walked through the siege of Stalingrad, the jungle war in Vietnam, trench warfare in World War I, orbital sieges of Mars, and the pacification of Titan Outpost Zeta. There were no embellishments, no propaganda, just footage, facts, and jazz. Soft, soothing jazz in the background. On a civilian transport, a Zarnathi mother shielded her child's eyes. "Turn it off," she hissed. "Turn it off." The screen didn't comply. Because there were no screens anymore, only messages. The Empire hadn't just lost control. It had been convinced to surrender it. And still, the humans hadn't fired a single weapon. On board the flagship Providence, General Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back, observing the data streams. Mason stood beside him now, eating a protein bar like this was just another day at the academy. "I'm still not grounded, right?" he asked. Cole gave him a sideways glance. "You were kidnapped, son. Not reckless. Technically, I let them kidnap me. That's why you're not grounded for life." Mason beamed. Behind them, Admiral Halvorsen approached, flanked by 3 diplomatic officers and a nervous-looking alien ambassador wearing the expression of someone trying very hard not to wet themselves in a room full of apex predators. "We have their surrender," she said, handing Cole the datapad. Cole glanced over it. "Too generous," he said, handing it back. "They're going to think we're weak." The ambassador stepped forward, trying to smile. "We, fully acknowledge our errors and seek peaceful reparations." Cole turned, his gaze like a neutron star. "You took a child." The ambassador swallowed. "We didn't know." "Exactly," Cole said. "You didn't know." He stepped closer. "You thought we were small, primitive, disorganized. But you forgot one thing." "What's that?" "We raise our children to think." The ambassador nodded rapidly. "Yes. Yes, we understand. And if it pleases the Terran Command, we would like to offer tribute. Territory, technology, access to our star lanes." Mason tilted his head. "You guys really suck at apologies." Cole gave a faint smile. "He's not wrong." The ambassador bowed low. "Please. We seek only peace." "You have it," Cole said, his voice unreadable. "But you don't have trust. That must be earned." He turned to Halvorsen. "Begin Operation Walk-In." She raised an eyebrow. "The full op. Full. And schedule a summit. On their turf." Halvorsen gave a grin that could have been registered as a war crime. "With media?" "Oh yes," Cole said. "The galaxy should see what consequences look like." As the ambassador was escorted out, Mason turned to his father. "So, does this mean I get my dog now?" Cole blinked. "You're still on that." "Totally. I survived alien abduction, sabotage, psychological warfare, and a pod that smelled like asparagus. I think that earns me a golden retriever." "You hacked their ship with chewing gum and a modified calculator." "Exactly. Responsible." Cole sighed. "We'll see." Mason grinned. "That's not a no. No, it's a maybe. Which means probably yes if I survive this diplomatic circus." They both turned back to the holoscreen, where the final part of Operation Walk-In was unfolding. Terran peacekeepers, scientists, and cultural liaisons stepping foot on Empire worlds, not as conquerors, but as reminders. The humans weren't trying to dominate. They were trying to demonstrate. And they did it with the same terrifying professionalism they used to raise their children. Across the galaxy, a phrase began circulating. It wasn't official, but it was whispered in markets, bunkers, and command halls alike. They sent the child first. Imagine what the father can do. Back aboard the Providence, General Cole turned off the holoscreen. Mason leaned against the console beside him. "Dad." "Yes." "If they ever do this again." "They won't," Cole said. "Still, if they did, would you burn their empire to the ground?" Cole looked at his son and smiled gently. "No," he said. "That would be too kind." The Galactic Empire's surrender came not with a bang, but with a very awkward silence. The kind that creeps into a room when the punchline of the joke turns out to be your own funeral. It was official now, signed, timestamped, and publicized across 3 quadrants. A peace treaty forged through the abduction of one human child, whose father responded not with missiles, but something far more terrifying, calculated restraint. Inside the now-occupied Central Diplomatic Hall of Zoran Prime, the air was thick with the scent of burnt pride and citrus-scented disinfectant. Dozens of galactic envoys and dignitaries sat in forced attendance, the atmosphere quiet and suffocating. Security drones hovered politely. Snacks had been offered. No one dared to eat. At the front of the great obsidian hall stood General Cole Alvarez, arms behind his back, not a trace of visible weaponry. He wore only his uniform and a neutral expression that somehow felt more lethal than any plasma cannon. To his right stood Mason, newly showered, his wild curls finally tamed, dressed in a modest Terran Youth Ambassador uniform that still bore the faint scent of smoke from his containment pod escape. He was sipping from a juice box labeled Victory Punch. Across from them stood Empress Vethari herself, a towering insectoid figure wrapped in ceremonial bone-thread silks, flanked by 6 of her highest-ranking military officers, each looking like they'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. Her facial chitin shifted with embarrassment. "I believe," she said, clicking each syllable with royal precision, "we owe you a great apology." Cole said nothing. Vethari's mandibles twitched. "And an explanation," she added hastily. Still nothing. She cleared her throat, or whatever the exoskeletal equivalent was. "You must understand, we did not know the child was yours. He did not appear dangerous." That earned her a sip from the juice box and a raised eyebrow from Mason. "Appreciate the compliment." "You're not helping," Cole muttered under his breath. "Sorry," Mason replied, with the exact grin that had turned 3 alien warlords into fans of Terran sitcoms last night. The Empress pressed forward. "Your son was captured under a false directive. A rogue element within our military sought to." Cole held up one hand, calm as still water. "I'm not interested in whose idea it was. I care about what comes next." Vethari paused. "Which is?" "A lesson." There was a collective shift in the room. Nervous chairs creaking, armor plates adjusting. Several ambassadors checked their datapads, expecting to receive a document. Instead, Cole walked forward slowly, scanning the room like he was taking inventory of souls. "You assumed humans were small, weak, sentimental. You believed our love for our children made us vulnerable." He stopped near the center, speaking without needing to raise his voice. "But you don't understand what that love means. You don't know what it makes us." He glanced back at Mason, who gave a mock salute with his straw. "We don't raise our young to obey. We raise them to think, to question, to challenge monsters like you." The Empress opened her mouth, but Cole wasn't finished. "And when you take one of ours, when you put your claws on a child who carries our blood and our name, you don't just challenge us. You sign a contract, one we will honor, one that ends with your systems erased, your influence stripped, and your species added to the long, quiet list of civilizations who misunderstood Earth." His voice never wavered, never rose. But by the time he stopped speaking, the silence was loud enough to make several dignitaries sweat through their robes. Mason tapped his father's arm. "Too much." Cole exhaled slowly. "No, just enough." There was a ripple of motion near the back as Admiral Halvorsen entered the hall, carrying a sealed case. She handed it to Cole without a word. He set it down on the grand conference table and opened it. Inside was a single document, embossed in gold foil, written in 100 languages. "A treaty," Cole said simply. "Drafted by your own scholars. Modified by ours. It acknowledges Earth's sovereign right to preemptive self-defense, territorial influence across the Orion Arm, and trade network veto power for the next 3 decades. Vethari stared. "That would cripple our economy." Cole smiled. "Yes. But you'll survive. That's more than I can say for most who crossed us." She hesitated. "If we sign, will Earth withdraw its forces?" He nodded once. "We'll leave your skies, not your awareness." The Empress's hand, 3-pronged and trembling, reached for the stylus. But before it could touch the paper, a booming voice echoed from the far end of the chamber. "This is madness." All heads turned. A tall, narrow alien in jade-colored robes stormed forward. Chancellor Drellner of the Teshkari Union, a long-standing political rival of the Empire. His skin shimmered with disgust. "You would bend knee to a species barely out of their cradle," he hissed. "To a child who sips sugar water during warfare?" Mason waved with his juice box. "Hi." Drellner spat something untranslatable and turned on Cole. "You threaten peace with theatrics. With fear. That is not diplomacy, it is psychological conquest." Cole met his fury with polite boredom. "You're welcome to file a complaint. Annex 73 covers protest procedures." "You mock us." "No," Cole said softly. "We remind you, we were never trying to be your equals." Drellner's hand darted to a hidden weapon beneath his robe. In a blur of movement, Mason dropped the juice box, kicked the conference table, and caught the throne blade mid-air with a magnetic strip from his belt. It clattered harmlessly to the floor. Cole didn't even flinch. The chamber froze. Mason stood up straighter, eyes no longer filled with playful rebellion. "That was dumb," he said, "but thanks for proving our point." Guards seized Drellner. No one intervened. The Empress, finally breaking through her silence, took the stylus with shaking fingers and signed. One by one, the others followed. The ink of surrender, drying faster than dignity, could be reassembled. Cole picked up the treaty, slid it into the case, and closed it with a click. "Earth accepts," he said. Admiral Halvorsen cracked her knuckles. "Then let's get you home, boss." The chamber emptied slowly, buzzing with hushed voices and the realization that an empire had been redefined not by a fleet, but by a family. As they boarded the Terran diplomatic cruiser, Mason leaned back in the seat beside his father. "I was kinda hoping for explosions," he admitted. "You got an attempted assassination," Cole replied. "True. Not bad for a Thursday." Cole stared out the viewport as the ship lifted away. Below, the Empire's capital shrank into distance, its once unshakable pride reduced to a small, humbled in space. "You know," Mason said after a long silence, "you were scary in there." Cole glanced over. "I was honest. No, like scary. I think you might have traumatized a whole generation of space politicians." "Good," Cole said. "Maybe they'll think twice next time." Mason grinned. "You sure I'm not grounded?" "Positive." "Can I finally get a dog?" Cole sighed, leaned back, and closed his eyes. "You saved a planet. Got a treaty. Didn't die. Fine. You can have a dog." Mason threw up both fists. "Yes. But," Cole added, "if it hacks anything, I'm blaming you." "Deal," Mason said, already opening a menu titled Top 10 Cybernetically Enhanced Puppy Breeds. As the stars streamed past and the Terran cruiser vanished into the endless black, a final message was sent to the Empire's network. Automated, simple, and undeniable. It read, "We are not your enemies, but we are not your prey either. Choose wisely next time." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy believed it.